Okay, it's been, I mean, I use stencils a lot in my demos, but I'm going to show you some other techniques that I haven't shown or I haven't shown in a long time. So today it's all about stencils. Why I love stencils. I don't know how many stencils I have, a lot. I don't have them all here at the store anymore because some of them are quite old and people keep asking me if they can get them, and some of them are from companies that no longer exist. So I've gone through all my stencils. So all the stencils I have here at the store are more recent, and I am more likely able to get them back in. So I have done a few samples here. I'm going to tell you about them. I'm going to show you how I achieve them, all using stencils. Okay, because maybe you have stencils and you didn't realize that you could do that with stencils. Hi, Glenda. Glenda from New Brunswick is here. So nice to see you. Can you mail out orders in Calgary? We could mail out your order, but we offered home delivery within Calgary, Donna.
We hand deliver it.
Yes, we do home delivery within the city limits of Calgary. Are you watching the Facebook Live?
I just responded to her.
Okay, perfect. Glenn will respond to you. Donna? Yes. Home delivery, which is usually way faster than Canada Post. I'm just going to say because Glenn's behind the wheel of the car. That's all I'm going to say about that. Okay, let's talk about stencils. So these are some samples that I've done, all using stencils. Now these two, and this technique, I was reminded of this one by Lorene the other day, and I haven't done this one in a long time, but did you know that you can dry emboss with stencils? Here we go. I'm going to flip that over. So hopefully you can see that. I embossed, dry embossed, using my Gemini. That is using a stencil. Okay? So I'm going to show you how to dry emboss. I also dry emboss using this one. That's a cool technique. I'm going to get to that one in a minute. I used a stencil with the dual foil transfer gel and transfer foil. I'm going to show you that one in a bit. Okay, there we go. This is using a stencil with embossing ink and embossing powder, so heat embossing. I'm going to show you that in a little bit. But let's just start off easy. Let's start off slow. I don't want to scare too many of you away with all the things. So let's start off with something pretty easy. Here, let me put that one aside for right now. So maybe you've got a stencil. Maybe you don't have stencils because maybe they're not your thing. So what I'm going to do, I just grabbed a piece of paper. This is Foundations paper from Vicki Boutin. Oh, she's here. Dakota's here. She's probably sleeping. Yep, snoring away underneath the table. Okay, so I put my Foundations paper on. I put my stencil down. I'm going to grab a blender brush. I'm going to grab an ink. Let me just, give me a moment. Here we go. So one of the easy ways to use stencils, here we go. Just gonna pick up that ink on my blender foam, or on my blender brush. Now if you have these type of blenders, oh, I may not have any here. Maybe you've got a blending tool with a foam, you can use the exact same thing. So I'm just gonna go over my stencil, just blending that ink over the stencil. Very easy.
Did you answer Jocelyn as to what mat you're using?
Which mat I'm using?
Yeah. She says, what mat are you using? I think she's talking about your rotating design board.
Oh, I'm using the rotating design board with the magnetic design set on top of it. I'm trying to get these back in stock. Do we have the rotating design boards in stock? We just don't have the magnetic design sets. Is that correct?
We just have the smaller rotating design board.
Yeah, these are from Totally Tiffany. And we brought them in, they sold really well, and now they are hard to get. But I am trying to bring them back in because I love having the magnetic surface to work on to hold my stencils. Okay, so I'm not gonna finish this, but there you go. Very easy. just using a regular ink. You can use any ink. You can use the oxides, the regular ink, Catherine Pooler, any inks that you like, blend them through a stencil. Okay, there you go. Very easy. That is ink blending through a stencil onto paper. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? Love it. One of the easiest and fastest ways to use a stencil, and I love it. It's gorgeous. Okay, now, setting that aside, let me set that here. I will bring all these back in. Now, be sure to ask me questions if you have questions, or if I skip over a step that was confusing or you didn't understand it. I'm just gonna set this here. We'll bring them back into focus at the very end. Perfect. What else can you do with stencils? Well, you can use paint. You can use paint with stencils. Just wait, let me find another stencil here. Let's grab this one. Now, at last count, yes, the Wendy Vecchi station is also really good. Yes, we do have that one, and it is a magnetic base, so it works very much like this. Yes, it's very cool too. We sell a lot of those. Okay, put my stencil down again using my foundations paper. Let me grab paint. I don't know why I'm choosing all the stencils with flowers. I don't know why. Here, I'm gonna switch to this one. Please ignore the fact that my stencils are very dirty. I am not a very good cleaner of stencils. Okay, this is a Lavinia stencil. I don't think we have this one in stock anymore. I don't think it's available, but we have a lot of really gorgeous Lavinia stencils that you will be able to save on tonight. And oh, I love Lavinia stencils. They are just so fantastic. Their designs are so different, so gorgeous. Okay, here we are. Stencil, paper, paint. Sorry, just trying to find a paint that I want to use. Oh, let's use this one. I'm going to use pistachio, and let's mix it with this one, aqua duck egg. Yes, the foundations paper by Vicki Boutin is 140 pound. It is wonderful for mixed media techniques. I just absolutely love it. The weight of it is fantastic. It can take a lot of wet media, so a lot of painting, sprays, those sorts of things. Absolutely wonderful for it. Okay, I'm gonna take a piece of cut and dry foam. So cut and dry foam comes in an 8x10 sheet. I cut them up into smaller pieces. I find it really easy to apply my paint through a stencil using the tap method. There we go. So you just bounce your cut and dry foam over top of your stencil. I'm not changing my foam because I'm using two colors that will look really good together. So I'm not going around in a circle because I am more likely to push the paint underneath the stencil. So I'm just tapping up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. Let's add a bit more paint to my work surface. I could use a blending tool to do this, but previous experience, I am more likely to push it underneath the stencil. So I like using the cut and dry foam. That's just personal preference for me. Not saying I won't have bleeding by doing this, but for me it just kind of minimizes it. So again, just pouncing up and down. So far we've shown stencils using inks, stencils using paints. Okay, just gonna use up the last of this paint. so I can get right down here to the bottom. Okay, perfect. So that's using paint. There we go. I'm gonna give that a quick dry. There we go. So we've done stencils with ink, stencils with paint. Perfect. What else can we use with our stencils? Just gonna try and clean this up a little bit before I move on. Okay, another one I did, now I have shown this in previous classes, is using stencils with a gel press. So I'm just gonna grab my gel press. This is the 8x10 gel press. Just gonna put it down there for you. You can see the yellow, that is from me using alcohol inks on my gel press. When you use alcohol inks on a gel press, it will tint it yellow. Doesn't affect the gel press any. The integrity is still there. If you're unfamiliar with a gel press or a gel plate, it is a plate gel, so you can do different techniques with it. I'm just going to show you what you can do with stencils. Let me grab some paint here, just a moment. So before I started, I did do 2 quick backgrounds with just a quick paint. So what I'm gonna show you first, just give me a second. Let me put down, actually no, let me use a brighter color. Here we go. This is paper artsy paint, but you can use other acrylic paints with your paint or with your gel press. Just gonna put a little bit of paint on there. Going to use my there we go. Use my brayer. Okay, just gonna spread that out, nice even layer. Perfect, that's about the size of my paper. Just going to roll the paint off my brayer. And now let's set down a stencil. Let's use this one. Okay. Gonna lay my stencil down. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take one of these. Actually, let's use this one. So this one already has my gel print on it. I'm going to flip it over on top of my stencil and I'm going to press, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to pick up that paint. Just making sure we press it because we want to get down into those grooves of the stencil. There we go. So it's picked up the paint and I've added a layer to my gel print. Okay? Using a stencil. Now, if I lift this up, there's still paint on there. Now, I think it is too dry for me to pull this up. So what I'm going to do, here we go. So if your paint dries on your gel press, all is not lost. Glenn's laughing at me. Going to put a little bit of vanilla paint on top. Again, this is Paper Artsy. Going to take that. So what this wet layer of paint is going to do is allow me to pull the dry layer off the gel plate. There we go. Let's use this one. This is just a plain piece of paper. Going to press that. Going to use a clean brayer. Make sure we have good contact. And there you go. It has pulled up that dry paint from the gel press. So again, look at that. We've got the positive and the negative from the one stencil, one color of paint, and the positive and the negative from one stencil. There you go. Easy, easy, right? Now I have this one. Let's do one more. Let's find another stencil. Let's do one more. Little bit of paint. Stencil down, paper down. Again, pressing because we want to pick up all that paint in those grooves of the stencil. There we are. Added another layer on that one. Ooh, I'm liking that. That's fun. Lift our stencil off. Not much paint left on there, but it's still there. I still see it, and it's thin and dry. So what I'm going to do, actually, let's just try this first. Just out of curiosity, I just want to see if it'll pull that up. There was a little bit of it that was still wet, so it did pull up some, but there's still paint on there. So time to clean the gel press. We're gonna go back to our vanilla paint, add that on. Roll that off. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna grab this, a bigger sheet of paper. This is just copy paper because I want to try and clean off my gel press. And there we go. So it pulled off the purple, it pulled off the pink, and it pulled off the vanilla. There you go. Again, stencils, paint, gel press, another technique to use. I'm going to fold that in half, so I've got that one to show you at the end. Gel press technique. Time to put the gel press away. Let's move on to another one. Let's just cover that up and move it to the side. Wonderful. Okay, what else can we do with stencils? Okay, let's show you this one. Heat embossing. Let's heat emboss with a stencil. So I'm going to set that one aside for a minute. I'm going to grab another piece of paper. This paper here, this is just a 80-pound smooth black that we carry. It's called Eclipse. This is the one, it's 80 pound. There we go. So this is the sample that I did prior to the Facebook Live. So I'm going to take that. Let's do... Now, I always forget this. I am going to take my anti-static pouch. I am going to pounce it up and down on that because I do not want any stray bits of embossing powder sticking where I don't want them to. Perfect. Okay, let's grab a stencil. Let's grab this one here. Perfect. I like this design. That's really nice. Okay, using my magnets to hold it down. Going to grab some embossing ink. I'm using a cut and dry foam again. Now I could take the pad and do this, but because I'm working in such a small area, I'm actually going to pick the ink up on the cut and dry foam. And again, I'm going to just pounce it over top of that design. Now, some people ask me, what do you do with your cut and dry foam after? Well, I clean it and I reuse it. That's what I do. So I have a whole container up at the demo bar of pieces of cut and dry foam that have been cleaned and are ready to be used again. Okay, looks like I've got that completely covered. Let's put the embossing ink to the side. Take this off. Wonderful, I can see it there. Set our stencil aside. I'm going to grab this. Let's see, what am I gonna do? What'll look nice on the, what did I grab here? Just randomly grab things at the demo bar. So let's see, what do I have? Yeah, let's do this one. This one is Tracy Scott Peridot. I'm going to sprinkle that over. Perfect. Going to tap off the excess. This is a coffee filter that I put in my tidy tray here. I just find it easier. Wonderful. Let's close that up. Set it aside. Wonderful, and give it a dry. So you can use any embossing powder with this, any embossing ink, the technique will be the same. There we go. I am in my happy place, Jennifer. I love showing people. I have been a crafter for so long, I didn't really realize how much knowledge I had in my head until I opened a store and started sharing it with people. It's like, hey, I know a lot of stuff. And even stuff that I had forgotten. Because, you know, you learn a technique 20 years ago and then it kind of goes out of style or the product goes away and then you revisit it because you haven't done it in so long, or a new product comes out and you're like, hey, that would totally work with that technique. So there we go. Heat embossed. And just so you know, this is the WOW inspired embossing powder. We carry the Tracy Scott. We also have Raquel Barillo Perez. These are both designers from Paper Artsy. We have their WOW embossing powders. So that's how both of these were created. Again, stencils. Yes, I know there's so many things. And this is why I love stencils. You can do so many things. And even what I'm showing you today is not everything, because I would have to probably be here for 3 days to show you everything you can use your stencils with. And I'm just showing you individual techniques. You could take this, put your ink down, leave your stencil on, apply embossing powder or embossing ink over it, and put clear embossing powder over your ink. So just because I'm showing you these techniques independently doesn't mean that they can't be combined. They absolutely can be combined. I'm just showing you just these individual ones, but I want you to be creative. I want you to grab all the things. I want you to grab your stencils and be like, I'm gonna grab my embossing powders and I'm gonna ink and I'm gonna emboss. Yes, you absolutely can do that. Always, yes. Okay, so there we are. Heat embossing with your stencils. Lovely, lovely, so much fun. Okay, let's move on to this one. Now, this one's a little bit, I can't really show it to you live because it does take a while, but I will show you how I achieve this. So this is using transfer foil.
Julia, you had a question
Oh,
from
sorry.
Patricia Higgins about her tidy tray
Yes,
hanging on to little bits and pieces of embossing powder.
yes.
Can you use your static pouch with your tray before?
You can. And Patricia, I have a love-hate relationship with my tidy tray. I love it, but I also hate it because of the static. And I don't know if that's something because of where we are and it's so dry, but that's why I use the coffee filters. I go to the dollar store and I get the pack of like 300 coffee filters, and that's why I line it with the coffee filter. I love the tidy tray, but yes, the static, infuriating.
So can you use a static pouch? And
You
wipe it?
you can
What?
you can use your static pouch, and I have done that. But you have to remember to do it every single time, and that's the part I'm not good at. I'm not good at the remembering to do this every single time. So I saw a blogger years ago, and she lined hers with the coffee filter, and that I find works for me because when I store this away, I store it with the coffee filter, and then I grab it out, and then as soon as my coffee filter tears, or maybe I've got little specks of black embossing powder on it and it gets too staticky, I toss it out and start with another one. But I probably bought my pack of embossing powders about 5 years ago, and I've maybe used a dozen
She says thanks
coffee
for the tip.
filters. So yeah, that's my tip on the tidy tray. Like I said, love-hate relationship with my tidy tray. Okay, setting that aside. Okay, so this is using transfer foil and the duo foil transfer gel from Deco Foil right here. So what did I do? I grabbed my stencil. Here we go. This is the one I used. Perfect. Now this stencil, I believe we're sold out of. I think this is a Pambray one from a while ago. I should reorder this one from Wild Whisper. I might do it because it's so cool. So put my stencil down. Actually, before I do that, because the duo foil transfer gel is messy, I'm going to put a piece of scrap paper underneath. Put my paper on, my stencil down. Let's just hold that down with some magnets. I have this. I am also going to use my Stencil Pal. Here we go. Do we still have Stencil Pals in stock?
I think so. Let me just have a quick look.
So the Stencil Pal comes in a 2-pack. It is from Thermoweb.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to open up my...
You do not.
We do not. Did you order more?
I don't remember ordering.
Ooh,
so I need to-
Glenn needs to order more of the Stencil Pal because it's my favorite. Okay, I'm going to take out some gel. Now, I could use this and put it down, but I will show you the beauty of the Stencil Pal. There we go. Put my gel on there. Going to take this and I'm going to lay it down. So the beauty of this is you can do one swipe across and get even strokes of the transfer gel through your stencil. Okay.
Stencil pals have been ordered.
Oh, I have ordered them. Okay, Stencil Pals are on order.
They should be here next week.
Wonderful.
They're in stock.
Ah, wonderful. Okay, perfect. So I've applied my gel. Now, you're thinking, well, you didn't fill all the stencil up. It's pretty rare that I will do the entire stencil. I like leaving bits and pieces. And see these where it's only partially filled with the stencil gel, with the dual foil transfer gel? Love it. I love it. You can see here, it only does partial. I love that. Again, that's probably a personal thing for me. If you want to cover the entire thing with your transfer gel, then you go for it. Perfect. Okay, let's uncover this. Okay, perfect. I'm just gonna set that aside. I'm gonna lay this down and I'm gonna take just a moment and I'm gonna wipe that transfer gel off of my stencil immediately. Perfect. Good. Let's just do that and let's give it one more wipe. We want to make sure that is completely clean. Wonderful. Setting that aside. So this is what it will look like after you put your dual foil transfer gel through your stencil. Now, am I ready to transfer my foil yet? No, I am not, because what you need to do is you need to let this sit until it goes clear. Once you no longer see white, then you're ready to do your transfer. Now, what does this mean? Transfer gel duo. Two ways you can use it. You can use it with heat, that means with a laminator, or no heat. So it will do a pressure transfer. So I could use it with just my finger and press that the transfer foil into the gel, or you can use a Big Shot or a Gemini, which is how I did this one. Okay, perfect. So this, what I did when this was all dry, clear, it was tacky, I laid my transfer foil on top, put it through my Gemini, and then peeled it off to reveal that. Okay, I'm gonna set this aside because I have a few more demos to show you. If this is dry by the time I'm finished, I will do the transfer, okay? So if it's white, the transfer won't work. You have to set that aside and let it dry on its own. Don't take your heat to it. You do need to let it dry on its own. Okay, so I'm just gonna set that aside. Set that aside. Okay, now, how many of you knew that, yes, Jocelyn, that is absolutely true. So see this, let me hold up a piece of paper here so you can see. So see that? That is what's left from me doing this transfer. So I could transfer this again and have the negative left behind.
Is that called the peekaboo effect?
Yes, that's what she means by peekaboo effect. So don't throw this away because you can use this. This can be transferred too. Very cool. Yes, love it. Okay, setting that aside. Wonderful. Thank you, Jocelyn, for mentioning that. How many of you knew? No, I do not. I tend not to use the entire stencil unless it's something like this. You know, yeah, that. But I just use a portion of the entire stencil. Now, okay, now who knew that you could dry emboss with your stencils? Hands up. Anyone? No, Glenn, you did not know that.
Well, I live with you, so I've heard it many times over the years.
He knew that because I told him that this morning.
Oh.
Now, Lorene reminded me of this technique. I haven't done it in years. Years, it's been years. So actually, it's been so long that how we used to do it was we used to use a foam pad and the embossing tool. Remember dry embossing that we used to do with the little metal stencils? Do you remember the metal stencils? Oh my goodness, I probably still have 3 or 4 metal stencils, and we used to press our embossing tool. Yeah, the olden days of dry embossing. That's going back decades, let me tell you. Well, now there's an easier way. So these were both, let me show you the back. I don't know if you can see the impression there. These were dry embossed using stencils. There we go. Okay, so let me show you how to do that. So this one I used infusions from Paper Artsy, and this one I used the Mica minerals for this one. And let me show you how to do it. Okay, let me set these aside. Now, this one, when I revealed this one, Lorena and I got very excited because I love this. It's beautiful, it's stunning. Okay, let me show you how to do it. I'm going to move this out of the way right now. Don't need to use it. Okay, now to do this technique, one of the critical things you need, Pixie Spray. I strongly recommend you have Pixie Spray. It is your best friend when it comes to doing this technique, plus many other techniques with your stencils. Okay, so what I did, let me find the stencils I used because those ones have already been sprayed. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, so I used these two stencils. So earlier on, these have been sprayed, so they are slightly tacky. Actually, do you know what? I think they need to be sprayed again. So if you're using Pixie Spray, I recommend using a box. I'm going to be doing this off camera. Put my stencil in my box. Taking my Pixie Spray. Sorry you can't see this. I'm going to do a 3-second spray on the back of my stencil. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that one is sprayed. You're going to want to let that sit for about 30 seconds because you want it to dry tacky. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. This one I sprayed. Want to let it sit for 30 seconds because you want it to get tacky. And by tacky, I mean tacky like a Post-it note. Okay, wonderful. So there's the two stencils that I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using my Gemini Junior. So if you do not have the Gemini Junior, you will have to check with the manufacturer of your machine to see what your sandwich recipe will be. Okay. Karen, what are you talking about? The Pixie Spray? Maybe just watch Karen McNair. I don't know if she's talking about the Pixie Spray. So you will have to check with the manufacturer of your machine to see what your plating would be for embossing. Now, I did check in my book for my Gemini Junior, and the plating for embossing, let me just see it. Where was it here?
Karen was asking about the Pixie Spray, and a couple of people have asked about cleaning the Pixie Spray off your stencil.
I don't clean the Pixie Spray off my stencils. I tend to just keep using it until the tackiness goes away, is what I do. And it does eventually, it just wears off and then you're fine. But I always make sure that I'm always spraying the back of my stencil. Now some of you are probably like, how do you know what the back of your stencil is? Well, unless it's numbers or letters or something like that, when you pick up the stencil, when the stencil is cut, so the laser is on this side and it's cutting through. So on this side, I'm trying to think of what the word would be. If there's a bit of a rougher edge on the side that is the bottom, is the best way I can describe it. So I always put the Pixie Spray on that side, okay? So,
which makes sense if you're using a blending brush, it would catch on.
Right, yes. And you will know if you are using the wrong side when you're using a blending tool, it'll catch a little bit. Yes, Nancy, a slight ridge on the back, yes. So when I buy a stencil, and I don't tend to do this much anymore, but when I first bought them and somebody told me that, I would put a little X on the back side. When I took it out of the package, you can feel it, and then you can take a Sharpie and just put a little X on the back side. And then eventually, once you become a stencil addict like me, you no longer need to do that because you just know. But yes, if you're new to stencils and you want to know what the front and back is, just take a little Sharpie, put a little X or a heart or a dot or whatever, and then when you go back, then you'll always know. Yeah. Okay, so these stencils are good. They are perfectly tacky the way I need them. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my paper. Let me set these aside. So like I was saying, the plating for your machine may be different than the one for the Gemini, but the one for the Gemini is clear plate. And it may be slightly different between an embossing, it will be different because an embossing folder is slightly thicker. So you may just have to play with it until you get the right plating. But the one I'm using is the clear cutting plate. I'm using the magnetic plate. I'm using the clear shim. I'm going to put my, here we go. Here we go, here we are. This is the embossing mat for the Gemini. That's gonna go down next. Okay, my paper is stuck to my stencil. There we go, so we're gonna lay that down. So I've got paper, I've got stencil, and I've got clear cutting plate again. I'm going to go over to my Gemini, which is off camera, but I'm going to put that through. There we go. Will stencil still slide into? Yes, it will. It's really not that sticky. Like I said, it's more like a Post-it note when you first spray it, but then once you use it, once you put it on paper, it does lose the tackiness pretty quickly. I can usually only get 2 uses out of it before it no longer sticks. Okay, I'm not going to remove the paper from the stencil for this technique. I'm going to leave the paper on, but you can see, hopefully you can see, the indentations. So that impression has now been embossed into my paper.
Kim wants to know who makes that stencil.
I believe this is one of the Vicky Boutin ones, the new ones. I don't remember which one it came out of. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that right now. Now I'm going to emboss this one. So let me take another piece of paper. Again, not changing my plating. Put my paper down, flip the sticky side of my stencil down. I'm going to press that onto my paper. Oops. Clear plate, and I'm going to put that through my Gemini again.
Well, Jason Kenny used to have this number about 3 years ago. I was given this number and I've had several calls for him.
Okay, I'm
So
going to flip
he
this
doesn't have this number
over.
anymore, and I don't know who he is, so I don't know what number he has now.
Here we go.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
There we go. Okay, setting aside all my plates for my Gemini.
3 years later.
Here we go. So there you can see the impression is now embossed into my paper. Again, not removing the stencil, not removing the stencil. I'm gonna do this one in a minute. Let's do this one here. How did I achieve this effect? Let me show you. Let's go back to our embossing pad. Going to take my cut and dry foam. Actually, no, I don't have to do that. I can just use the entire pad because I'm doing the entire thing.
Where's the first flower stencil you had? That one. You remember what that one was?
Vicky Boutin.
Oh, that's a Vicky Boutin.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to take my embossing pad. I'm going to go over the entire thing. There we go. Just pressing, making sure that I have got all of that in there. Okay, perfect.
Lisa Stern wants to know, on the big shot with stencils, do you need the rubber mat as well for your sandwiching?
Yes, I did use the rubber mat.
But on a big shot, would you need that as well?
Yes, you will need an embossing mat. Okay, so before I move on to my next one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a white or another piece of paper. I'm going to lay it over top because there's a lot of embossing ink there. I'm going to lay it over top. I'm going to use a brayer because I'm going to try and pick up some of that embossing ink that is sitting on the top of that stencil. So I got a little bit of it. That's good. What I'm going to do, let me set this aside. Wonderful. Woohoo! Fun. Okay, so I could remove it and do the embossing, or do this, the mica pearls, mica minerals. But I want a crisper edge, so I'm going to leave the stencil on. So what I'm going to do, these are the new mica minerals from Lavinia. I demoed them a little bit last week, so I'm going to do it again. Let's pick out a couple of colors here. Actually, let's pick out 3. Scottish Thistle, Pine Forest, and Blue Splendor. Let's use all 3. Going to grab a just a soft brush. I'm going to open up all 3. Let me set that there. I did show last week how you can make your own mica sprays with these too. So if you missed that demo, you can go back. I believe it was last Thursday I did that.
It was, yeah.
Last Thursday, okay. So I'm going to take my brush. I'm going to gently dip it in to my mica mineral. Going to gently just go across. Just going to start tapping this. Going to go back, pick up.
Paper and ink, Boutique Glen speaking, can I help you? I'm good, how are you? Good. Yes, it's been a few weeks.
There we go. Okay. Going to go into my second color.
No, appreciate the phone call and everything is going well. Thank you. I was looking at the rates and I remember
Here we go. Tap, tap, tap. Well, let's go into the last one and add that. So wherever that embossing ink is, the mica powders will stick. So maybe you're wondering how these are different from, say, a perfect pearl. They're very much like perfect pearls. Very much like them. I'm sure there's other products out there too, but very much like perfect pearls. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm just going to wipe my brush off on my apron. I'm gonna go in and I'm just gonna give that an all over wipe to make sure there's no excess powder. Wipe that all away. Okay, now we are going to pull that up. There you go. Very, very cool. In all honesty, I like it better on the black than the white, but it's still a cool effect. Still a very cool effect, but I do like it better on the black. But yeah, you can see when you tip it, I mean, oh my goodness. Love it. So the mica minerals, one of my new favorite things ever. So this I'm using with the embossing ink through a stencil, but last week when I did my demo, I also showed you how to use stamps as well. So yeah, you have to go check that out.
So someone's asking about perfect pearls, that would work the same way, right?
Yes, the exact same way. And I think I still have...
You have to repeat perfect pearls.
Oh, yeah. Well, I did talk about the perfect pearls already.
Okay.
You weren't here, but...
Sorry.
Yeah, I will show you this.
And eyeshadow, would eyeshadow work?
I'm sorry, I had a mouth of coffee and I almost spewed it everywhere when Glenn said eyeshadow.
Well, it's
I mean,
okay.
I'm sure it would. I've never used it, but I'm sure it would, yes. I've never tried it. It might. So if you want to make a mica spray, just take a little mister bottle. This is the mini mister from Ranger. And how I made my mica spray, I opened up my mini mister. I picked up some of the mica and I put it inside my little mini mister. There we go. Now what I would do before I put this back in, because the micas can clog this up, I would just put my finger over top and give that a good shake. Because sometimes the micas can clog this up and that can be super annoying. So I'm just gonna give that a shake. I'm gonna close that. This went from being all about stencils to all being about micas. Just wait, I just want to show you this because I think it's totally cool. And you can do this with perfect pearls as well. Okay, I'm gonna open this up. So now in here I've got a mica spray. I'm going to just do some droplets on that. I'll dry that in a minute. And then I'm going to take this, make sure that's on, and then I'm going to do a spray. Oops, better close that up. That could have been bad. I keep looking over at my honeycomb duo transfer gel, and it's getting there. It's not quite dry, but it's getting there. There you go. Okay, let me give this a dry and then I'll show you. So if you have perfect pearls or any sort of mica powder at home, yeah, if you've never made your own mica sprays, oh, do it. Do it, it's amazing. Let me just finish drying this up. Hi, Nancy. Nancy's watching from home. Nancy MN. Here we go. Okay, so I made the my mica spray mist with my mica minerals, and then that is the spray. Hopefully the camera is picking that up. There you go. So that's just the spray. That's a great effect. And then this was me unscrewing the lid and just doing the taps and getting little taps on there. So yeah, cool, right? Lovely. Okay, so that's mica minerals. And these are the mica minerals using the embossing ink through a stencil. Cool, right? Okay, I'm gonna set that aside. This one here, let me grab another piece of scrap paper. Perfect. Okay, so this next technique, I'm going to be using infusions from Paper Artsy. And let me just grab them here. Infusions from Paper Artsy, and let me just see what I have here. Mine are color bursts. They're called Color Sparks now, but mine, I still have the old version of them. Just give me a second to pull one out. Here we go. Okay, so Color Sparks. I know mine say Color Burst, but they're now branded as Color Sparks. Or infusions. These are both powders. Let's not use that one. Let's use Emerald Isle. So what is the difference between an infusion and the Color Burst / Color Sparks? The infusions, all of the colors, and I don't know how many there are, I think there's 21, from Paper Artsy all have a walnut stain base. So each of them, once they're finished drying, will have a brown vintage tinge to them. These ones do not have the walnut stain base. That is the difference. I love using them together. I don't just have to use color bursts and I don't just have to use infusions. I will use them together. Okay, so what I'm gonna do.
It's WIS.
Going to take these. Now this one I just poked a hole in. I do keep it covered in tape, but what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make sure that that stencil is still, yeah, still stuck down. Going to tap some powder onto my surface. And the same with this one, you're just going to tap. On camera, you may not be seeing a whole lot, but trust me, those are there. Some of my color bursts are almost out, which means I'm going to have to start replacing them with color sparks. Okay, so product that is also similar to these would be Brushos, I believe they're called, and there's another one, but the name right now is escaping me. Okay. Going to take a spray bottle. Start adding a bit of water. Perfect. Love it. Now that I've got water on there, going to just add a bit more. Now what I can do is if I want to spread that around, I can take a brush. Okay. There we go. Don't have to fill all of them in or make it look perfect. I'm just trying to define some areas. There we go. Okay, and you can do as much or as little as you want. I'm gonna stop there because I don't want to fill the entire background. Actually, let's do a little bit. I want to define that 4 a little bit more. Perfect. Okay. Do have, before I pull that stencil off, I just want to pick up, there is quite a bit of moisture there. I just want to pick it up before I lift that stencil off. Perfect. Okay, now I'm going to gently start lifting my stencil off. Perfect. So there you go. So I've got some of the embossed areas with the color bursts, and I have others that are just the shadow of the embossing. I'm gonna give that a quick dry before I hold it up again. Just give me a second. There we go, starting to dry. There we go. So I embossed it. You can see on the back, I've embossed those numbers in there. So it is raised. And then I've added my color burst and infusions. Now, what I would probably do is I would put my stencil down and I would actually no, I probably wouldn't even use my stencil. I would maybe go around maybe with a black pen and divine some of those numbers. Like just looking at this, maybe if it was somebody's 39th birthday, I would do the 3 and the 9. and then put happy birthday on it. That would make a cool card. So there you go. Embossing, dry embossing with your stencils. Oh my goodness, such an old technique, but I am loving it. Okay, now let me just hang on. Let me pull this back so you can see it. So this is the Duo Transfer Gel that I put on a little while ago. So you can remember when it was white. It is now starting to dry.
I'm just looking.
Oh, it's now starting to dry. It's still a little too white in here. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try and do, before we go, I'm gonna do this transfer. And before I do that, let me ask, does anyone have any questions before I do this, before I move on? Maybe something you need me to show again. Let me just bring these out. So we have ink. These were embossed with, and then I did the infusions and color burst. This was dry embossed. And then I used the Wow Embossing Ink with the mica flakes. This was the Embossing Ink with heat embossed powders. And I used my gel press with my stencils. And I did paint with my stencils. So, and like I said, these do not have to be used independently of one another. You can do these, you can combine all of these. So this one here where we did the dry embossing, once it was dry embossed, I could have went over with this and heat embossed. Yeah, you can do any combination of these things. I just want to show you how you can take your stencils and your products and just take it to the next level in so many different techniques. I'm just gonna see if I can get this to dry just a little bit more. We'll try and do it. Okay, so the dual foil transfer gel. Let's revisit this again one more time. So what I did is I put my stencil down. I took my Stencil Pal and I spread the gel over top of my stencil. When it first comes out, it's white. You need to let it sit and go clear, which means it's tacky, which this is tacky, okay? The duo means that you can use heat or pressure transfer. So you can use a laminator, you can use a Minc machine if you've got it. Pressure, so I could put my transfer foil over top of it, which I'm gonna grab a sheet of transfer foil right now. So I could put my transfer foil over top and use pressure with my hand and transfer it, or you can use a die cutting machine such as a Gemini, Big Shot, etc., etc. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, it's not completely, I'm not expecting there to be much transfer here because it doesn't look like it's quite dry enough, but it looks like the outer edge I'll get some transfer. So when you're using transfer foil, you need to see the color. Don't put it on this way. You need to put it on this way. Okay, so I'm gonna lay that down over top of my, excuse me, just need to take a drink because my mouth is all of a sudden very dry. Okay, laying my foil over top. Bringing my plating. I don't need the rubber mat for this because I'm not doing dry embossing. Taking the rubber mat away. Going to lay that in there. I'm using my Gemini. So the plating on your machine may be different. Going to stick it through my machine off camera here. Take my plates away. Okay, now I'm going to start peeling back that transfer foil. Oh, actually more of it transferred than I thought it would. There you go. And another way to use your stencils is with transfer gel and with transfer foil. There you go, another cool technique. Yay, love it. So there you go. Don't forget that stencils are 25% off, so if you need to add to your stash, tonight is the night. Don't forget to take advantage of those scrappy hour deals from 4 to 6 p.m. You can shop here in store from 4 to 6, or you can shop online. 10 sheets of cardstock for $5, all the way up to 100 sheets. 25% off all stencils except for pre-order stencils from Wild Whisper, and 40% off Paint Fresh Studios. There you go, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful day, and wherever you are, that you're safe and healthy. We will talk to you again on Saturday. Take care, everyone. Bye.